Welcome to Fast Politics. Sam Adler-Bell.
Hi, Molly. So happy to be here.
Hi. Here we are, another day in paradise, our authoritarian tilt towards whatever is happening here. Tell me, what are the things that are keeping you up at night?
Not out of fear, but out of just burning contempt. This
Yes, we
story with
love burning
this
contempt.
story with firing the BLS chief over the bad
Yes.
jobs numbers. I it's like the thing with Trump is you're always going back and forth between like, God, this is a really scary situation, and God, this contemptible fool
Yeah.
who is a narcissist who like just shouldn't be anywhere near a single level of power. Like you
Nope.
can't have a president whose first thought when they get a bad set of jobs numbers is to shoot the messenger. And it's just so pathetic. I mean, I can see the ways in which it could be really bad,
Right. Oh,
people
yeah.
stop trusting these numbers and they install, whoever they install after, this interim director.
Mr.
Um,
Wonderful.
yeah, Mr. Wonderful. But even if they were just a person with perfect credentials, people won't trust it. People on the left
No.
won't trust it, and they have good reason not to, because why do you get rid of the person if not to install somebody who's going to fudge the numbers? And I can see the path to it being ruinous, but at the moment I just find myself being like, how can anybody think this is okay? How can you just be like, yeah, that's my guy up there. When he gets bad news, he fires the person who gives him bad news. It's so pathetic.
I think you have really explained a fascinating phenomenon as we round into a decade of dealing with Donald Trump, which is it's scary slash it's stupid. And I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like, the Venn diagram of like it's stupid, it's scary, and they're like not quite a circle. So like the Rose Garden redo is just stupid. Like who could,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously whatever, there's some historical precedent for the Rose Garden, but it's largely just, you know, but Bureau of Labor Statistics trying to redistrict your way into not losing the majority in the House,
Yeah.
that kind of thing is actually quite scary.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, stupid and scary. That's the mix. That's the Trumpian stew at all times. And yeah, it can be hard to know just how to calibrate your own reactions sometimes. But I'm pretty fired up lately.
Really? Tell us why.
Well, the other thing Matt and I in my podcast, Know Your Enemy, where we're talking about
Explain to
just the
us, you go on, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
on. No, go.
Just the sheer scale of the corruption in this administration
Hmm.
has really started to get to me, because I think it's the kind of story that's hard to keep in your mind, or kind of like it's just by its very nature we become numb to it and our standards change.
Mm.
But Matt was just reading to me from, a story from several months ago about, the crypto people who, somebody who invested $20 million in Trump's personal crypto coin and therefore got to go, to
The meme
the
coin,
White
his meme
House.
coin, right?
Yeah. I mean, how can that seems like, an age ago, but it's still
Right.
the case that anybody, any individual in the world, any rich person, whether they're a agent of a foreign government or not, can just give, $50 million to Trump in secret for whatever
Yeah.
reason. I mean, the fluctuations in the stock market that allow his cronies to, basically insider trade on the tariff negotiations, like this kind of stuff would have been the one big scandal in any other administration that we would have talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I find myself just being mostly disgusted by the fact that this administration is just like one giant machine for
Making
mafioso, rackets,
right.
basically, making money for people that he's friends with.
It feels like you get here by allowing members of Congress to continue trading stocks, by
Yeah.
not regulating technology, by some of the feelings. And I think of my I have old children because I had them when I was very young, like a
Smart.
teenager. Just kidding, not a teenager, but pretty young. And they say I'm a neoliberal because that is the biggest insult they can think of. Except my other kid who's like, you're a communist, which again, okay. But there are failings of neoliberals that got us
Yeah.
here. Like, and
Yeah.
the sort of the sort of go along to get along, and I also think like trying to sort of emulate Reagan in
Yeah,
yeah, it's Section
in the 90s.
230. Yeah, can we
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's true because I have this thought sometime about like how do we get back from this era where huge parts of the voting populace thinks it's fine for the president to basically make the presidency a personal project of his own wealth
Right.
creation and his family's own wealth. Like it's disturbing that he does that. It's even more disturbing that it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Is it the partisanship that has like is it not a
Yeah.
problem for them because it's their team? I mean, is that why?
I think largely, but what I think about in terms of your question about like how we got here is that I think in order for if there's ever if a left party, say the Democrats,
Right.
probably the Democrats, ever
Right.
becomes a kind of like, you know, the kind of cultural hegemonic leader in this country, it would be because they've been able to credibly, you know, point out that it's wrong, evil, anti-democratic for the Republicans to just use the machinery of government to make money for themselves at all times. And the reason that that doesn't really happen or it hasn't really happened or that isn't a winning issue for the Democrats, I think is because they aren't credible on that issue,
Right.
exactly for the reasons you're saying, because of insider trading, because of just like that has the kind of populist anti-plutocratic message has been a minority voice in the party. And in fact, to kind of talk out of my own lefty book here, I mean, the one person who everybody agrees is credible on this issue, Bernie Sanders, every time he got close to power, the Democrats did everything in their power to prevent him from
Yeah.
becoming, the leader of the party. I mean, it not for nothing, and I hate to be like this kind of prototypical millennial leftist in my feelings about this, but Bernie Sanders is the most popular senator in America. And
Right.
why is that? And it's including with independents, including with Republicans. Why is that? Because he does represent this other side of the coin, which is when Bernie Sanders says, I'm disgusted by, you know, Democrats making money from the stock market, just as I am about Republicans. I'm disgusted by Donald Trump using, the office of the presidency to extremely increase his wealth. He seems credible. He really seems like he
Right.
hates it. And he's not
Right.
himself some kind of secret rich guy. The thing about Bernie Sanders, and he's not the only one, but he is the kind of prototypical figure who represents this credibility in his anti-plutocratic message, his anti-oligarchy message. And he's been on that message, since 2016. And it's not a coincidence, I think, the Democrats haven't been able to adopt that message in a way that's winning because they also have tried to marginalize Bernie, much less so than they did in Trump's first term. He's kind of on side now, but I just think in order for there to be, you know, in order for the Democrats to benefit from the graft that this administration engages in on a regular basis, they need more figures who seem like they mean it when they, as Alex Coburn used to say, that their hate is pure.
Right. Really, I think important and also true. I wonder though, so what you're saying is something that I actually spend a lot of time. Basically, in my head, I spend almost 80% of my day worrying about all of this, right?
Yeah.
I just like, what's going to happen, da da da. And it strikes me that Mondani has successfully channeled
Yeah.
this populism in a way that is both the populism is a real thing, and he has gone to voters who are not the elites, who are the sort of because like the mayoralship is always decided not in Manhattan, but really in the Bronx and Brooklyn,
Mhm.
which are districts that are not affluent. They're a mix, right?
Yeah.
And so it strikes me that Mondani has managed to transmit that to working
Yeah.
people, the populist message.
I think to a significant degree. I mean, I also think it's true as much as I think it's tendentious the way that the right tries to use it against him, that there is a huge part of his coalition that is the kind of like downwardly mobile professional middle class, the millennial socialist types. But I don't really have the same contempt for those people as people on
But
the right or
also,
in the center of the party
but
do, because those are my friends. But
but that's not a huge, but that's not, I mean, unfortunately for all of us, that's not a huge group, right? Like
no, no,
the
no, it's
huge
true.
group are working people. Like if you're going to win a primary in New York as a mayor, you
Yeah.
are getting voters that are working people from the outer boroughs.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you're totally right about Mamdani, and the great irony, contradiction, I think, embarrassment for the leadership of the Democratic Party is that here's a candidate who ran on affordability,
Yeah,
affordability, affordability. If you look at his campaign website, there is basically no single proposal that is not about lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers, except for when people were trying to goad him into talking about Israel. He only talked about affordability. He made that
right.
his whole project. And that was exactly what the Democrats said was the reason they lost in 2024, was because
Yes,
Trump credibly convinced people that he was going to lower prices. He was going to make it
because he
easier to.
said that he
He
was going
said
to
it.
lower prices.
He
Yeah.
said it. Yeah. And so Mamdani built his whole campaign around exactly what the kind of Democratic postmortem said a Democratic candidate should build their campaign around. And now look at who has not endorsed the Democratic primary winner in New York City. Well, both the senators from New York, who one of whom is the head of the Senate,
Yes.
as well as the head of the Democratic House Caucus, also from New York. I find it. How are they going to? I mean, we know why they're not doing it. I think we can speculate, but I don't know how they're going to go around saying like the huge problem we have is that we can't appeal to working class people and we don't have a credible message about affordability. And then when one candidate wins in a landslide on that message, they don't endorse him. I mean, it's absurd.
Or expected.
Or
Absurd or
expected.
expected. Gillibrand really did cover herself in glory when she came out and said that Mondani was anti-Semitic because
Yeah.
what did she say he did 9/11? I can't remember.
Almost. I mean, I think she said that he had used the word jihad or something like that. She
Yes,
she got mixed
yes.
up because she wanted to talk about globalize the Intifada, which of course also Mamdani doesn't
Did
say.
not say. But he must
Um,
disavow it. Despite not
yeah.
saying it, he must.
No, I
He
mean
must. He must.
it's a really bleak thing. I was talking to my podcast producer Jesse. I also have one of those.
You know
Um,
that all podcast producers are named Jesse. I don't know if you
Jesse.
knew this.
But he was saying something interesting, which is that it's the Democrats, maybe the Democrats just wish Mamdani was the same candidate without the position he's staked out on the genocide in Gaza, you know. But the thing is,
You
the
can't get a
reason
young candidate.
you can't get that guy who has the credibility with young people that he does, that would be able to turn out all these disaffected young people if he didn't have that message. I mean, the theory of the case for Cuomo was that the older people were going to be so scandalized by his, in my opinion, principled stand about Israel, and its
Yeah,
brutal siege, that they were going to come out and he was going to lose for that reason. But actually, he won for that reason
a
because
reason.
he
Yeah.
was able to mobilize a group of Democratic voters or potential Democratic voters who wouldn't vote for any candidate who didn't separate themselves from the party's position on that issue. And
And
so it's all part of the same package.
and I think that's a really, really, really important point because Mondani actually did win among Jewish voters. Now, there's an incredible tweet that has him not it. I don't know if you saw that tweet. If you're very online, there is a tweet where where like Americans for Adams shows
Oh
that
yeah,
who won what, and it doesn't have Mondani having won Jewish voters, but he did in fact win Jewish voters, and he won this Jewish voter, and he won it because I believe that Netanyahu's genocide of the Palestinian people is
yeah,
not reflective on the many good Israelis who are just
yeah,
minding their own business, like we
yeah,
Americans are. And that quite a lot of them, I don't know if you saw the cover of the Wall Street Journal, the Rupert Murdoch owned Wall Street Journal today had pictures of Israelis protesting Netanyahu.
yeah,
And I don't think that any of us want to see any more children and women and men in Palestine being starved to death or shot
Yeah.
by IDF. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that serves anyone.
No, I don't think so either. And I think that, I mean, we are seeing somewhat of a changing tide, a dam breaking this week, it seems. I think in within Israel, you have a figure like David Grossman, who's, basically the biggest literary celebrity in the country, coming out and calling it a genocide. You have both the two top human rights organizations within Israel calling it a genocide. And then in this country, like you said, I mean, you see, the
Marjorie
large
Taylor
March.
Greene,
Well,
because
I think she has your dog's politics a little bit.
the
She's
the
anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic, but it's
Hamilton,
true that she has been
like
right
the
about what
yes.
she said. What she said has been true. What she said is true, that you can say that October 7th was a disaster, an awful atrocity, and what Israel is doing now is a genocide.
Marjorie Taylor
Voice
Greene,
of reason, Marjorie Taylor
voice
Greene.
of reason, voice of reason. She came. My favorite part of Marjorie Taylor Greene, moral arbiter, is that she came to Congress on QAnon.
Yeah.
So this has really gone full circle here.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, everything. Jewish space lasers, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, she
true. I
is
mean, but
likely anti-Semitic.
she's.
That's
I think she
fair.
very much probably is. And but I do. I think that what you could say for Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she does seem to be uh, loyal to the people who put her there. That I think that the sort of Republican primary voters in her district, who are, effectively the people who put her there, were QAnon people, are people who
Yes,
care about the Epstein story,
yes.
and are people who have, I think, in principle, an America first foreign policy view, which, to give them credit, it does not make sense that our own foreign policy interests should be subordinated to a foreign country, even if that country is Israel. And so I think that's the stand that she's taking. And yes, she's probably an anti-Semite, but she's also a
But
member of
she's
Congress.
our anti-Semite. Actually,
I
she's
don't think she
not.
is.
She's
I don't
not.
think she is. She is. We can have fun, but yeah. But
Yeah.
I think that's true. I mean, that she is loyal to her constituents insofar as, her most loudest constituents are those who think that she shouldn't be in there to just do whatever Trump tells her to do either. She should be in there to uncover the Epstein files,
Wow.
to stop the pedophile cabal, and to actually make America, America first in its foreign policy. And so
Sam Adler-Bell, will you come
I'm
back?
I'm waiting for the call from Marjorie's office. I'll take a job anytime.
You'll be her speechwriter. Can you
Yeah, it'd be
imagine?
great. Yeah.
Be like,
I know where all the bodies are buried, Jewish space lasers wise. So,
that's right, Jewish space lasers. Thank you, Sam Adler-Bell. Thank
thank you,
you.
Molly. This was fun as always.